as my entrepreneurial journey changes and as I learn more and more things. So the stuff that we'll be covering over the next 6 weeks, and this is nowhere near all of it. There's actually a lot more than that because I've added even more stuff just in the last 2 or 3 days. But to give you a brief overview, we've got mindset. So pillar 1 is mindset, staying motivated and stop self-sabotaging. And that's setting the foundation. So your fear of sales, self-sabotaging behaviour, money blocks, that sort of stuff. Number 2, pillar 2 is designing a well-crafted presentation, which is also packaging your products and adding value that way, and designing your dream business. We do that before we actually design the presentation, so we'll be doing that next week. And I'll be working with you all one-on-one, is actually helping you actually put that together. So by the end of this, you'll have you'll actually have 2, one for inbound, one for outbound, that you'll actually be able to put into practice. Pillar 3 is questions are the answer. So really that's the delivery of your presentation. So building rapport using NLP techniques and extended disc behavioural profiling. Pillar 5 is your closing or gaining the commitments, so getting people to move forward. And with this presentation and everything else we'll be doing, it's seamless. So there's very little objection handling on that's actually needed there, but you will be able to do that as well. Pillar 6 is lead generation, so never cold call again. And in that section, we'll be going through about 10 different marketing strategies, mostly free. The only paid one is Google AdWords and Facebook advertising, but the other 8 are all free methods. And okay, so apparently you can see the bottom of my screen as well. Nick, tell Ronnie that's a tall order because I'm doing what I can. Okay, let's see if I can figure out how to change it without losing you. Is that better? Okay. Fingers crossed. We'll see how that goes. All right. Okay, so I've forgotten where I was up to. So, yes, so lead generation. So to never cold call again. So most of those strategies are, as I said, free. And the bonus one that I'm going to be putting in there is education-based marketing as the bonus module. So how to actually create an education-based marketing piece and then use it, which is reverse engineered marketing, and then repurposing it in 5 different methods. Last one is expand and leverage. So stepping up and scaling your business from one-to-one to one-to-many, and there's lots of different ways that you can do that. I've been thinking about all of your businesses over the last couple of weeks and what I would do if that was my business. And a few boxes were ticked over the weekend. I did my extended disc accreditation and had a 30-page report of what my skill set is and what I do and don't like it, etc. And one of the things was about getting into businesses, creating them, and then sort of outsourcing and moving it forward, which is why I was always so good at building other people's businesses. Then I'd get bored. After about 4 years, once it was all running smoothly and made them lots of money, I'd get bored and I'd go and work for somebody else. So looks like I'm in the right place now as a business coach. Okay. Let's see if I can get this slide to change. Okay, so pillar 1 is the millionaire mindset. So for this week, what we'll be looking at is the fear of sales, limiting beliefs around not being good enough, fear of failure, fear of success, self-sabotaging, and money blocks. So the first one is the history of the sales profession and how long it's been around obviously for decades. And one of the main things that you need to remember is that you are always selling something. It's been around since the beginning of time, from bartering in the corridors of Jerusalem. So you're always selling one thing or another, whether it be, I like to use the example of whether or not it's getting the hubby to take out the garbage or getting your kids to clean their room. Life is just a place of negotiation, and it's not something that you need to be feeling guilty about. And when we go through a lot deeper into the fear of sales, we'll be looking at that in a lot more detail, but this is just a bit of an overview. So there's been a move towards heartfelt selling. So that comes really from, it's mainly in the feminine industry, in service providing industries. All the other methods in corporate are still the same, and they are making a slight shift, but not as much as obviously women with a home-based business, and that's the fastest growth area. So people buy from people they know, like, and trust, and that's why there is a little bit different strategies, using a lot more feminine words and things like that. So it's taking out that depersonality, which is what I am, and bringing in a little bit more of the steady and see, which we'll go into later. So the reason you need to become really good at sales is that you may be the best at what you do. However, if no one knows about it, you'll go broke fast. And that's just the bottom line. So my why is to help empower women to have the business and the life that they love. And I can't help the world, but if I can help you help other people, that's the butterfly effect. So this is Fred the Head. Now, we called him Fred the Head in coaching school. So this is just a little bit about where our beliefs actually come from. So we actually receive hundreds of thousands or maybe millions bits of information per minute. And we actually filter what's important to us right now and delete everything else. So it's delete, distort, and generalize. And it gets then filed away into little categories in the filing cabinet in our brain. But what happens is when this information comes in through here, we actually create a picture, an internal representation or an image. What happens then is that creates a state, or a feeling or an emotion or a reaction of some sort, and either your physiology changes or you can go straight to a behaviour change. So you may hear people talking about, changing your physiology, and it will change your state, and therefore your behaviour changes as well. So to give you an example, if you were walking down the street and a car was coming, there's cars going past, you wouldn't notice them. If you're walking along the street, you might be talking to somebody just in your own little world. But if a car was to lose control and start heading straight towards you, your fight or flight mechanism would kick in, and you become aware of, obviously, of that straight away. But everything else gets popped away into these filing cabinets. And these is where all your memories and all that sort of stuff is actually, and your values and beliefs and attitudes towards life is filed away. And we don't even think about it, but yet our reactions to things are all based upon this stuff that generally happens when we are children. Those beliefs don't always serve us. So the reason I'm showing you this is the way the subconscious mind works, and this is where a lot of the stuff comes from with your fear of any fear of sales that come along, or self-sabotaging behaviour or money blocks. It all comes back to this. This is how it all got in there in the first place. Those moments are called defining moments. So first, here's my little favourite picture of beliefs. So beliefs are not necessarily based upon a logical framework of ideas. Since you don't really know what is real, you have to form a belief or a matter of faith. That's by Robert Dills. So this horse and it's a bit like also elephants in a zoo or something like that, may have been tied up to this chair when it was a baby, and it thinks it still can't get away. But we know different. It can. It's all in its head. So when we have non-serving beliefs, such as salespeople are pushy or wealthy people are greedy and are not based on fact, they're all beliefs that are formed from childhood, and they're beliefs that are no longer serving us, and so we don't need to hang on to them. We can actually get rid of them. So just like this horse, we need to challenge whether those beliefs are factual or in our head. So what is a defining moment? Now, that worksheet that I gave you all emailed out for you today, the reason we're not going to go actually through that is because it's the sort of thing that you need to sit down and actually think about. Now, as you're working with those defining moments, I want you to think of it in the context, first of all, in the fear of sales, where your fear of sales come from, and also, again, with money blocks. So if you can actually print off 2 copies, in fact, I'd probably do 3, because you can use this for anything that ever comes up. Whenever you want to challenge and you want to chunk down and get the detail of what's going on in your head, and you really want to sort of analyze it, this exercise is really good. And you can go as deep as you like, or you can, just go down, because you can do about 10 different questions there, but you can, even if you went down to 4, 5, or 6, you're going to get a better understanding of where it's actually coming from. So we're going to be going through the first one as money blocks. I think we're going to go through. So just take some notes, but actually do the exercise later when you can sit down quietly. Otherwise, it'll take us sort of half an hour, 40 minutes just to go through each, just through that exercise. Okay, so a defining moment is any moment that when you recall it still has a strong emotion connected to it, or a time when you came to know something to be true. I've got that to be true about you, but it doesn't necessarily need to be about you. It can be true about anything. So from those defining moments, we can self-sabotage. So self-sabotaging is an unconscious subversion, disruption, or obstruction to hinder your own cause or endeavour. So you consciously have a desired outcome, but you work against yourself unconsciously. It's a bit like the chicken or the egg, like what comes first. So do you self-sabotage coming from your beliefs, or is it the other way around? So we're going to be looking at some of the reasons why we self-sabotage. So whenever we're making change in our life, actually I'm just going to check in because I've got this minimised so I can't see it. Make sure nobody's got any questions. Is everybody good? Can't see anything there? Okay, all right. So why do we self-sabotage? Now, this happens usually halfway between moving away from pain and towards pleasure. So when you're trying to create change, and I am the worst for this, I'm experiencing at the moment, which I'll tell you a little bit more about it shortly. But when you're making change in your life for anything, you're either moving away from pain or you're moving towards pleasure. Now, when you get about the halfway mark, you have what they call the lack of band effect. So if you imagine stretching an elastic band and it's pulling one way or the other, and about the halfway mark it's trying to pull you back. It's when you get over that halfway mark you start moving closer to the towards, because you're sort of over the halfway mark for away the pain, if that makes sense. So otherwise, your subconscious is trying to pull you back to what is actually comfortable for you. So just because something is comfortable doesn't mean it's right or it's good for you, but your subconscious wants to actually keep you safe, so it will keep you in a bad situation rather than have that change. And that's all the little monkey chatter in there, which is why you need to challenge those. So when you do get over that new hump, I suppose, or over the halfway mark, what happens is outside your comfort zone is this new experience. And as you do more and more things outside of your comfort zone and you stretch more, your actual comfort zone actually expands. So your new experience is now quite normal. And then you'll do something else, which will be out here, and then that becomes the new normal, stretched out to here, and so on and so on. So for some people, their comfort zone could be really, really tiny. And so just doing what we might do every day could be a stretch for them. So for example, I've always been really, actually quite introverted and shy. And I'll show you my eDisc profile in a couple of weeks. And I was absolutely blown away that the fact that my I style, which is my influencer style, which is generally what salespeople have, is really, really low. It's a learned behaviour. So as a perceive or adjust or learned behaviour, it's really high. So I've learned that, but it's not something that comes natural to me. So when I first started, though, back when I was 18, it was really, really difficult for me, and going out to networking events and speaking and all that sort of stuff has been really challenging for me. So I feel the fear and do it anyway, and my comfort zone is getting more and more stretched, but it used to be really, really tiny. So every new experience will stretch that comfort zone and create a new reality for you. Okay, so what we're going to do now is have a look at some money blocks. So some causes of money blocks all come back to the same stuff as your fear of sales or anything like that, it's your beliefs. So beliefs that we have formed around money, and that comes back to your defining moments. Pardon me. So as I said before, print off 2 copies of those defining moments. One to do with your fear of sales, and then do the same exercise with your money blocks. So changing the context in what you're thinking of it. So with money blocks, when you're asking the question to list a defining moment of when something particular happened with money, could be mum and dad fighting over money or whatever it might be. So when you're going back and trying to think about where some of those beliefs come from, do so in the context of around money. And when you're doing it around sales, do it around sales. I actually had a client who realised, had a breakthrough a few weeks ago, that her mum had always struggled because she was a single mum and had always struggled. And when they went out on a boat one day, like a river cruise or something like that, and they were going along the canals, and there was all these beautiful houses. And she remembered her mother saying to her something along the lines of, oh, those people would never get to spend any time with their family, and they're always too busy working, trying to keep up with the Joneses. That belief stuck with her, and she hadn't realised it. When we were originally doing the exercise, she couldn't kind of think of what the challenge had come from, or where the belief had come from, I should say. And she rang me about 2 days later and said, I've got it. She said, I sat bolt upright in bed and realised that that's where it come from. So now she's putting some stuff in place to expand further. So I like this little thing here. When you work on one issue, you work on all of them, because they all kind of come back again to the beliefs, and they all are intertwined, and that fear of not being good enough. So here we have upper limits in spending and receiving. So one of the things that when I was doing that talk a few weeks ago, and we were talking about that self-imposed glass ceiling. So that comes from spending and receiving. Some people think it's just about receiving, but if you notice that there's sometimes certain things that you won't go over a certain amount when you're actually spending money. So each of us has a set point, or I suppose a gauge of what we can earn, spend, and how much success we can have in our lives. And when we get close to that point, we can sabotage ourselves to cause ourselves a lot of suffering. That's where that earning sort of cap comes in. So it's a set point or a belief that was programmed again from during early childhood. So we tend to arrange our life to match the money set point, or that ceiling that's actually a result of our thinking and our perception of money. So if your number might be 300,000 or something like that per year, that's the number that you're comfortable earning, that you couldn't imagine earning $1 million a year. Or if you're at the 40,000 a year mark. I did this exercise when I was working for Casey Golan with Action International, and at that point I was I think about 23, something like that, and we did an exercise that had to goals and visions and that sort of thing, and how much I wanted to earn. And at that point I was earning about 40,000, and my stretch was to earn 100,000, and that just felt completely unauthentic to me. It was like, no, that's not, I just didn't believe it. I just thought, no, that would be like, I'd be rich if that happened. Then, because what you visualize and what you move towards, when I got to that figure, my new figure became 200,000. Then it was 300,000, and the new one I'm aiming for is 500,000. So that's the one I'm now working on. So again, like the comfort zone that we talked about, that becomes your new comfort and your new reality. So we've all heard, like, for example, about an example is like lottery winners who lose their millions that they won a few years later. And that's because they'll create the reality to go back to what they're actually comfortable with. Another example is families raised on welfare, that they tend to repeat the cycle. If the parents didn't work and they were on welfare, the kids would repeat that cycle. And that's because that's what they've grown up with, and their beliefs around money come around that. Whereas a child who has gone to private school, it's the old rich dad, poor dad, Robert Kiyosaki type of stuff, which I've got some of and I'll email you. Kids who have gone to private school, it's not necessarily the education that's better. In fact, I think it's been proven that public school education is better, but it's the surroundings. So rather than going, if the kids are going to school with, people whose parents are doctors or lawyers and that sort of thing, or CEOs, they're more likely to aspire to that than to go into trade school or something like that. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just the different level of, I suppose, where the beliefs come in. Okay, so Gay Hendricks refers to this upper limit problem in his book, The Big Leap, which is quite good, about each of us, and he quoted, each of us has an inner thermostat setting what determines how much love, success, and creativity we allow ourselves to enjoy. When we exceed our inner thermostat setting, we will often do something to sabotage ourselves, causing us to drop back into the old familiar zone where we feel secure. So how do we move through it? So you can commit to watching your mode of operation with money. Actually, by being aware is probably the number one. So becoming aware of the stress surrounding money, earning and spending. If you're a coach, then getting people to pay for your coaching services, if you won't pay for a coach, they knock each other out, they counteract each other. So you can't expect people to pay you when you won't pay somebody, or somebody to invest in you if you won't invest in yourself. So do you have a certain amount that you think you can earn? Do you have a hard time sort of spending money on yourself? So the first step in behaviour change is awareness, as I said, and understanding, and then taking action. So you can't argue with yourself and the reality of the situation. Number 2 is identify your financial upper limit and actually stretch it. Ask yourself how much money you're comfortable generating income on a monthly basis. Another way to stretch it is to practice saying what you actually charge. So if you were to stand in front of the mirror and say, I charge $100 an hour, I charge $200 an hour, I charge $300 an hour, I charge $400 an hour. and wait and see when you start to feel uncomfortable. You'll feel it in your gut and your voice will go a little bit higher. That's your number. So you need to stretch it and get comfortable saying that so that you're comfortable charging your true value. So you need to stretch that number. Okay, so find that number that is comfortable for you and then stretch it. And it will make you nervous, as I said. So it's a matter of, again, extending that comfort zone. So you move it up slowly, and with you charging your prices, you do that same thing. So keep stretching it and putting it up in little increments that you're comfortable with. How do you sabotage yourself when you are making more money? Okay, so that's something you need to think about and be aware of and take notes on. Do you spend as much as you earn? If you grew up with the belief that you will lose family and friends if you make too much money, then you're most likely going to spend the money as fast as it comes in. Notice what's behind the behaviour. That's my one. That's my money block that I'm still working on. As soon as I start earning really good money, I start spending too much so that it's constantly committed to go elsewhere. Not comfortable with having savings. Okay, so that's the one that I'm currently working on. Cutting out the middleman. So waiting until you make enough money and start to appreciate what you have now. So staying in the moment. Deciding the rules that you have around that money. So in order to be wealthy, do you need to be earning 300,000 or 500,000? Or is that number 100,000? So you want to be stretching it, but you also want to be appreciative and grateful of what you've got now. And the last one, be, do, have. So act as if, by living as if you've already earned the money. So thinking abundantly and not having a scarcity mentality, and constantly go for a drive in the car that you want. Go looking at the houses. Feel what it actually would feel like to have those things, or the holiday or whatever it is, and do some visualizations actually around that. So you start getting comfortable with it, and to a certain degree, if it means getting the lease on the car, like I did, then yeah, and then you find a way to manifest it and come up. Okay, I'll just check in with everybody again. Okay, now Nick's just told me she's found her stretch. I'm just going to unmute you. Can you hear me, Nick? I'm going to try and... Can you hear me? Hello? No, can't unmute it. Okay.
I'm unmuted now.
Aha, there you go. All right. Would you mind sharing?
Yeah, no problem.
You don't have to go to detail. Just one of the what you're going to do about it.
Okay. Well, just this week I've been finally having some time to look at my business and all that sort of stuff. And another course that I've been dealing with just in relation to Zero,
Yep.
I've been talking about charging packages.
Yep.
And it was interesting because as soon as they did, I instantly sort of like, I know, like I froze or I got scared because I was like, oh, my clients, I don't know how I'm going to do this. Like with new clients, not a problem, but I've got like, I don't know, 60 odd clients, and I thought, how am I going to do that? And one strategy that they told me, I could make like an extra 10 grand because I realized I was underselling myself, and I was like, oh, how am I going to sell it to my existing clients? So yeah, kind of like, oh, I need to work on that.
Yep, cool. So what we'll be doing...
Even getting clients, yeah, I just need to work on my fear and, yeah, in relation to what I'm worth and, yeah, that sort of stuff. So that was really good.
Cool. So when we do some packages, we'll be adding value. Yeah. So as well as also looking at the underlining stuff, but also adding value so it doesn't feel that scary. Cool. Thanks for sharing.
And it's funny because even though we're saying that now, though, I still get that. I still feel it inside of me of like, you know, yeah, what if I lose them, sort of thing. So it's interesting.
Yeah. So got to be coming from you'll be attracting. Remember more of the ideal client we talked about.
Yes.
Attracting more of the ideal client, because the ones who know your worth, and especially when you package and have that extra added value, you have plenty of clients. If you lost a handful, you'll gain that double.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you. And Katrina just said that this guy here is her scary one. Okay. All right, just pop that back again. Okay, does anybody else have any questions so far? No? Okay. All right, now, what I'm going to do now, how long have we got? All right, so I've got, if you want to have a vote, I've got a pre-recorded webinar I did that dealt with purely with the fear of sales. So I can either, what I might do is just, so we're going to go through a little bit, I think, of this, and then I'm going to send you the actual audio. Okay, so I'll send you the audio so that you can go through the fear of sales work a little bit deeper. Okay, so with the money blocks and then the fear of sales. So they're both two different exercises there. Okay. So just let me get this audio, if I can find it. Actually, no, I won't be able to. Okay, so I'm going to email it to you. So it's basically going through rules about your fear of sales and values around fear of sales, different reframing and different ways of looking at it. So I'll give you a brief overview rather than going over the whole lot. So basically it's about what thoughts and feelings do you associate with the sales process. So Katrina was just saying the slimy man there with is what she feels like. So that is not obviously accurate. That is a belief, and it's an image that you've popped in there, and nobody thinks that of you or of anybody else. It's just a buzzed up thing to make it, you know, taking the piss out of it, so to speak. So when you go through your beliefs around what thoughts and feelings do you associate with selling, so your defining moments, is that a door-to-door salesman that come to the house and your parents said, you know, bloody annoying salespeople coming to the house and all the rest of it, and God, I wish they'd go away. The only salesperson I ever remember coming to the house was a Encyclopedia Britannica guy, and Mum and Dad bought the whole collection, and they actually had to, like, it was $2,000, which was a fortune, obviously 5 years ago, which has now been replaced, obviously, by Google. So, but that's the only time I ever remember a salesperson coming to the door, and I'm sure there were lots of others. But if you have a thought or a memory of that, something like that coming up, or somebody rejecting you when you approach them about selling your products, what was it that actually come up? So what are your beliefs around actually selling? And values as well is also covered in that audio. So what rules are you applying in order to feel successful, and what rules are you applying in order to feel non-successful? So what has to happen for you to have felt pushy? If somebody, if you called somebody and they say, no, I'm too busy at the moment, does that make you pushy? Or could it be that they were actually just busy? So if you're applying, rules to when you're going to feel pushy and when you're not, and what values you have around that, need to challenge some of those beliefs. They all quite often come back to your fear of failure and fear of not being good enough. Okay. All right, looks like I'm missing a slide on one of the computers where it's on the other one. Okay, so the slide I had was about clearing your fear of success and fear of failure. So you can't quite see that. Well, you can't see the slide, but anyway, I'll still give you a bit of a rundown on it. So fear of failure and fear of success are just as powerful. The fear of success can be what can change if you actually hit all your goals. And for me, this was a big one. I had I suppose a recall, or a realization, I should say, only a couple of weeks ago, that when I first, I suppose, became successful and moved to England when I was 26 with my ex-husband and the kids were little, the success ended up being the end of my marriage, because I felt like I'd sort of outgrown him and that sort of thing. So it actually dawned on me that one of the things that I have been holding back from is fear of having that happen again. What if I outgrew Pete? And that really scared the absolute crap out of me. It's not something that I was ready for, and we'll all end up where we're supposed to be at the right time. But I realised I'd been holding myself back from sort of being visible and putting myself out there too much. So what is it you're actually afraid of? Are you afraid that you might lose some of your current relationships? Are you afraid people might say that you've changed and that sort of thing? So if you've got a negativity in the back of your mind attached to what success would look like, and if you don't examine it, you won't know. But is there something that you're afraid of that would change? Because the universe can't bring it to you if you're really deep down in the subconscious actually holding back. Okay, so fear of failure, most of us know that we can just get up and keep going. Fear of success, I believe, is actually stronger. Most of us have failed at different things throughout our life and have got up and we try again. So, yeah. All right, so that's about it for tonight. I've got the audio without obviously going through that. That goes for like another 22 minutes, I think. So I'm going to actually email that to you, and that's the about fear of sales, so that you can actually pause it, stop, start, and pause it while you're actually going through the PDF each time. So with the defining moments, and then defining moments around fear of sales and around money blocks. So you'll be able to stop and start as you're actually working through it, because if we were doing it actually on the call. Yeah. All right, so I'm going to be touching base with you all through the week and see how you're actually going. And if you have any questions, please give me a call or send me a message or email me or whatever, because I want to work on these actually with you. Okay, so that will be it for tonight. So on next week, same time next week, I'm going to email you all a recording of this call as well. Okay, so as well as the other 22-minute audio. And next week, we'll be looking at your actual presentation. So another email will be coming out for you as well with a PDF on creating your dream business. So if you could make a start on that, so that when it comes to actually doing the elements of a presentation, you'll already know exactly what it is you're working on. So I'll be sending something on packaging your products, and also on packaging your products and creating your dream business, so that we've got a base for that to work on. Okay, anything else before we say goodnight? No questions? All right. So have a good night, guys, and I will speak to you all during the week. I'll give you all a call and touch base and see how you got along with the exercises. Okay, bye.